Hey collective, welcome back to the channel. I am MC5D Astrology and Tarot, and we are here for another vulnerability message. This is episode 3. I'm super excited to have you at the channel. If you guys haven't already, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notification bells. I don't want you missing out on any of these good content. I want you guys here catching a vibe with me because I want to catch a vibe with you. All right. Again, this is your vulnerability message. It is part 3, episode 3. We've been talking about self-love, right? Who are we? Why are we here? That type of energy. I wanted to come on and do this vulnerability message to kind of follow up to episode 1 and episode 2 because it goes hand in hand. If you haven't seen episode 1 or episode 2, I suggest watching those so you can have a better idea or feel for the content I'm speaking of in this particular video. However, again, do what you got to do to get the information. You may have to watch part 3 and then go back and watch the other ones. However, whatever works for you, do that. But I believe if you watch part 1, then 2, then part 3 will kind of help it flow together. But nevertheless, I wanted to come on and kind of talk about the fact of, have you ever felt or have you identified or recognized that you were taught to throw away parts of yourself? That you were taught that parts of yourself isn't acceptable, isn't okay, it's not deemed appropriate. And when that happens, you then start to lose your identity, you start to lose yourself, and that makes it easier for the system we live in to fill those parts, those basically stack on top of something that's already there. So they start to tell us who we are and who we are not. But I just wanted to check in. Do any of you guys, or haven't you guys ever felt like you had to throw parts away of yourself or you couldn't be your full authentic self? Well, I'm here to tell you that you can't have one without the other. And over here, we've been talking about the inner family tree. And when I say you can't have one without the other, I'm speaking of, yes, our inner family tree. So the parts that we neglect or throw away are the parts that, society teaches us that are not okay, not acceptable, which is basically saying that you being your authentic self, we don't want that. We want carbon copies. We want an assembly line of people like a Barbie doll and a Ken, and you have to be this. If you're not that, something's wrong with what? You. That's what they tell us. But is that true? Because last I checked, the divine gave all of us a spiritual social security number, and that is why everyone has what? Different identities, in the sense of, you take a fingerprint, nobody's fingerprint is exactly the same. That's what they tell us, right? But nevertheless, we won't get into all that right now. But we're basically taught to disregard our identity. And I did not like that. I didn't like that about myself. But it was a time and place where I didn't realize that was what's going on. So a lot of you guys may have been in a phase where you didn't really even realize that you were already conditioned to, like I spoke in the other videos, not love yourself, not like yourself. You were conditioned to have to pick and choose parts of you and then fill the rest of it up with, I call seat fillers in the matrix, society, history telling us what to believe, what to think, how to be. But then you start to realize that it goes against your energy within you. And why? What happens is you can't have one without the other, meaning the parts of you that are already there and they were there to begin with, you try to discard them and bring somebody else in the household to take their place, and they're already there and there's no room for that person to come in and sleep. That, don't you think that's gonna cause an issue? You know what I mean? Like, for example, if somebody is married, right, and you're in union with someone, you share a home with that person, and someone just knocks on your door, shows up to your door. One of the people knew about it, the other one didn't, and they're gonna be there for a whole year. Well, did you have a conversation with your spouse? So, for example, my intuition don't really technically need ego telling it what to do or how to run the family business, because it is the founder of the family business, right? Ego was hired. The thing is, who hired ego on my behalf, in the sense of, yes, we have ego, but intuition is tied. When it's a healthy version of ego, intuition's tied into it and they're in union. When it's an unhealthy version, then that means it was planted there, and neither the healthy version of ego or intuition said it was okay to be there. So who invited that version to come staying home? Who was making them decisions? That's how I look at it, right? So when it comes to, we can't disregard ourselves, or when it comes to you can't have one without the other. You can't have the dark night of the soul and not have the light night of the soul. We talk about the dark night of the soul a lot in just the community. If you're not aware of what the dark night of the soul is, please do your research. Please check out, there's a lot of YouTube videos or just people who are really familiar with it. I definitely feel like I should do a video on it, but to keep it short and simple, we have more than just a dark night of the soul. We have a light night of the soul, okay? We have also our inner divine feminine, our inner divine masculine. We have our inner child, we have our intuition, we have our shadow, we have our higher self. So we already come fully packed and equipped. We are good over here. So what happens is, over time, being in this 3D world, we are taught to neglect certain parts of our identity when it comes to our shadow, when it comes to the dark night of the soul, the light night of the soul, the inner child, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, intuition, the healthy ego tied to intuition. All these things, we're taught to neglect certain parts so the seat fillers can come in and sit on top of them and, you know, act like we're just taking one big family picture, and we're not. So my encouragement today is to realize that you can't have one without the other. You don't want it to continue to live in a direction where you're always just in one energy all the time, because it's just not realistic. It's not realistic, because you're made up of many energies within you. Like I spoke on one of the other videos, you are both your mother and your father. So that is a man and that is a woman, meaning you have man in you and you have woman in you. And woman says man already. You know what I mean? That's why we come from the woman's womb, because she is all. She can create all. So you have both within you. So be okay, collective, with stepping more into your authentic self. Ask yourself, am I playing a character someone else told me to play? Or am I really truly living authentically in my woman energy, in my man energy, in my feminine masculine energy? Like, is it equally yoked? Is it equally equipped? You know, is everything good there? Or am I too much in one energy because of how I was conditioned, because of how I was designed, because of my situations, because of my circumstances, my home life, my environment, the people I was around? Like, you start to have to ask yourself, you just need to do a check-in, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have your feminine energy without your masculine energy. You can't have your masculine energy without your feminine energy. It just doesn't exist, even though we're taught to believe the illusion that it does. And that's why you have so many people that are in dysfunction with themselves. You know, have you ever heard that saying, well, pay attention to how a man treats his, how a man treats his mother or his sister or his aunt, you know, or a female cousin. That's going to help you understand how that person will treat you. And the reason why I think that saying comes about is because that man is made up of feminine energy. So if that man is in any shape or form neglecting its own feminine energy, then guess what's going to happen? It's going to be off balance. So therefore, any energy around it, it's gonna explode that energy around it. It's gonna show up in that light. So we have to be very careful, you know, of that. Just like the saying, I want to date someone who's like my father. Like a girl saying, I want to date someone who's like my father. You want to be very careful saying that, because you want to ask yourself, was my father in alignment with his own feminine masculine energy for me to want to date someone like my father? And we're not talking about the qualities that are really good and genuine and heartfelt and authentic. We have to be mindful. Like I said, you can't have one without the other. So you can't have the dark without the light without the dark, right? So yes, you may have good qualities, but you also have some qualities that were taught to us intentionally to outweigh the good qualities. So we have to get to the bottom root of that and start to identify the qualities that don't serve us and how we can bring it back in balance with ourselves. And it goes back to understanding you can't have one without the other. You have to, bless me, you have to love and learn to love all of you. So I want people to start coming from an approach of being okay with loving all of you. Like, get more in tune with your feminine masculine energy, right? Your inner child. Get more in tune with it, because you can't have one without the other with your inner child either. A lot of us think because our temporary vessel outside of us grows up like a tree that we're no longer a child. Just because a tree continues to grow, you don't stop calling it a tree. It's just a taller tree. Just like us, we're all children, right? So if we're all children, just because our temporary vessel outside of us starts to shift and shift shape and change, it doesn't mean that we're not still a child. So we have to make sure that we're being careful with loving on all parts of the child within us that has been on this journey on earth school. So you don't want to neglect or negate any part of yourself, right? You don't want to pretend to just be, for example, like maybe at the age of 17 that you were living it up, or the 21 you were living it up, but when you were 15 or maybe 30, that version of your child wasn't the best version. So you try to disregard that version of you, act like it didn't exist, it don't happen, or try to make it seem like it's not alive, but it really is within you, and you just want to go off the good vibrational versions of yourself. It don't work like that, because then you're neglecting your family tree within. You're telling yourself, oh, you're ashamed of me. That's what you're telling yourself, that you're ashamed of yourself. You should never be ashamed of your journey. You should never be ashamed of yourself. You should always love yourself. But again, we're not taught to love ourselves. We're not taught to like ourselves, right? So that's one of the main problems. I'm trying to see. I feel like I was about to say something really, really good. It may come back to me. But nevertheless, you guys, I wanted to come on and just be a little vulnerable, in the sense of there was parts of me that I neglected and I discarded because I viewed it as something negative. I viewed it as it wasn't beautiful. I viewed it as something that was just ugly. And that's not true. We all come here to learn. Everyone has their own natal chart with their own lessons in it that they've already come on this earth prepared to do and to take. It's already pre-planned with the divine, how things are going to move and shift. But when we do come on this earth, there are energies in place to distract that, and to lead us on courses that don't make up our authentic path. And that's why we have versions of ourselves that we want to disregard, or versions of ourselves we don't like, because it's not truly in alignment with our authentic self. And our authentic self feels that. The inner family tree feels that, and it's trying to understand, like, how is this being put onto me when I know this is not me? So the first thing is acceptance. I had to learn to accept a lot of things within my life, whether it was things that I played a role in, because we all play a role in things basically, but in the sense of accepting, for example, like my mother for who she is, accepting my father for who she is, accepting my siblings. Some of you guys may have siblings, maybe you guys don't, I don't know, but accepting your siblings for who they are, accepting the romantic and platonic relationships over the period of my life that I interacted with, and understanding why I had to interact with those energies, and why I showed up to the relationship or conversation in the manner I did, and why did they show up to the conversation and the relationship in the manner they did, and how that roots into self-like and self-love, identifying all parts of you and loving all parts of you, and knowing that you have many people within yourself. And you have to be able to first be in tune and have a therapy conversation with your own family tree before you be out here in these streets trying to create an external family tree. It's about that. But then realizing that you can't have one without the other. I would not be able to be where I'm at now and have my experience I'm having now if I did not go through all of those cycles, those karmic cycles within the matrix, within society, within history. And people look at karma, that word karma, and they want to call it a bitch. Be careful, because karma is married to Saturn, y'all. And Saturn don't play about karma, neither does the divine. Karma is not a bitch. All karma does is tell you what's going to happen after you take a test and got a grade from it. They're the enforcers. Karma is the enforcer. So you can either you passed and got a good grade, or you didn't pass and didn't get a good grade, or you're maybe in between, and either way, you got to retake the test. The thing is, we don't like karma because of the information that it delivers to us in order to bring change. Like John Lewis says, stir up some good trouble, right? So don't be mad at karma. Don't be out here calling karma a bitch, not her name, because that's not cute. Karma's your friend. Karma's here to help you understand the lessons that you are not learning. to help you identify the parts of the lessons that you keep tripping up on. It's like reading a story in a passage and they said, what did you get from the passage? But you got triggered by one or two words within the passage that you're hung up on that you completely missed the bigger picture. Karma helps us with that. So be kind to karma, because karma is here to help you, right? So I had to learn that for myself. I had to identify what karma really was, because we're taught karma is this and karma is bad and karma means negative things. No, it's all about how you look at it. It's your viewpoint. If karma is that bad, that means you're bad. Something is off with you, right? It's like opening the refrigerator and something smells, but instead of checking to see what it's smelling and getting it out of the refrigerator, you just keep closing it and opening it and letting the smell just continue to rise until it gets to the point where the next time you open that refrigerator, it is going to be horrific. And you're going to have no choice but to what? Figure out exactly where that smell is coming from and clean it out. A lot of the times we wait until the last minutes to try to clean out our refrigerator, our inner self, and we get in trouble for it. And then we get upset because of how the divine and the world is shaped to make sure that we are growing and evolving and ascending and awakening, and we are not staying in the same energy we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 months ago, 2 weeks ago. If you're not here to grow and evolve or change, why are you here? So, side note message, when people be like, oh, you've changed, or this person's acting weird, this person acting funny. Well, what have you been doing? You're not growing? You're not changing? Oh, that's sad. You know, you have to look at it from that perspective. And I had to look from that perspective as well, too. So I had to learn a lot of things about you can't have one without the other. I had to learn that I had to accept all of me. Even the darkest parts of me, I had to accept. Even when I didn't even know they were dark. Even when I didn't understand what was going on, you know? And a lot of times when people are trying to learn and grow, it's like being in a classroom and someone may stutter or someone may mess up on a word, and you have other people in the classroom laughing or joking or snickering or, you know, hee hee ha ha. And it's like that in the world we live in. We're just in a big ass classroom. So everything is exposed a little bit differently, you know? So if you are learning and your lesson may be a harder lesson to learn because of how your natal chart is set up, and other people's natal chart may be set up differently, and they're learning, and then the classroom learning a lesson with you, but it's not the exact same lesson, their perspective is going to be different about who you are in that lesson and how you learned it and why you're learning it or why you're in it to begin with. That's when judgment comes on. That's when projections come on. That's when people start to tell you who you are, right? That's the whole reason why the Matrix does that, because it allows other people to also project on you certain things about the character that they want you to play that's not your authentic self. And we start to take that energy on. And what happens is we lose ourselves. And then we tell ourselves, oh, well, I need to be this all the time, or I have to be like this all the time, or else this is going to happen. I won't attract this, or people might not want to talk to me, or people will see me in this light. But in actuality, you're neglecting yourself by not truly identifying it and just loving on all of you, right? Nobody, actually, I take this back. Divine is telling me to say everyone is perfect. We are similarly uniquely similar, because we're perfect the way that we are. So society teaches us, oh, no one's perfect, you can't reach perfection. Well, perfection is a word in the English language, in history's dictionary, in history's way of language of speaking. And they made up something to tell us what perfection is. And again, we believe it because we're in history's classroom. The divine is saying, you came in here well equipped before history told you who you were. So ask yourself, ask me is what Spirit is saying. Ask me if you got questions. But yeah, that is my vulnerable, I can't even speak right, you guys. That is my vulnerability message for today. Wanted to come on and let you guys know you can't have one without the other, all right? So be okay with all of you. And the more and more you accept all of you, what I learned on my journey is you're going to start to set certain boundaries and have certain values and morals and standards for yourself that you never even knew you could set for yourself. And then when you do that and you really apply that and you live that and you're authentic and you have good intentions, doors open up to people, places, and things that mean you well, that are healthy as well too, that want to see you thrive and succeed, you know, that want the best for you, that don't try to make you out to be someone that you were 10, 12 years ago, right? Doesn't try to keep you in a box and doesn't want to see you grow because they're used to a certain version of you, right? Doesn't want to feed on the fact that you come off a certain way. And you may not intend to, because you may not have known better in the moment. So I want to also just help people understand that allow people to be where they are in the sense of growing. And if you can't contribute to helping them grow, if you don't have, some type of tools or something to help them grow, or if you don't know how to have a conversation with them to say, hey, let me pull you to the side real quick, or hey, let me holler at you really quickly, and let's just, are you all right? Are you good? Everything good? Are you sure? You can talk to me if something's going on. Like, the energy, something, just having those conversations of letting people be vulnerable, because a lot of times we're wearing these masks in the world, and it's because we've been taught to wear masks. So a lot of us are not out here being authentic and vulnerable. We run from the first sight of emotional groundedness or intelligence. Someone's in tune with their emotions, you're running. And then you have people who are in tune with their emotions, but the way that they were raised, or their environment, or their upbringing, and just people around them over time, they learned to manage their emotions in a way that wasn't deemed appropriate. And I know I had that for a very long time. I had it for a very long time, and I had to work through that energy, but I wasn't doing it intentionally. I honestly couldn't see myself. I couldn't understand myself. I didn't know who I was. But then you start to kind of wake up to who you are, and it makes you dig deeper. And that's what I did. So I encourage you guys to start to dig deeper. So then you'll be okay with loving all of you and knowing that my shadow is just as beautiful as my higher self. My masculine energy is just as beautiful as my feminine energy. My inner child at all stages of life, it's beautiful, and stop pretending to be someone you're not. I had to learn to, I didn't even realize that I was so blocked off, like just completely shut down because of all of the trauma and things I went through in life, that I would just, I was basically I was really not living, right? I really wasn't living. I was allowing people to tell me who I was, what I wasn't, if something happened, I really didn't know how to speak up for myself. I went through all of those stages of meekness, and it was because of the odds stacked against me. It was because of not knowing who I was, and not knowing my value, my worth, and that my feelings do matter, and that I'm more than just what society tells me I am, or what my mother and father, or what people around me told me that I was, So make sure that you're loving on yourself. Make sure that you're taking time out to no longer throw away parts of yourself and empty the trash out for good, is what the divine wants me to tell you. Stop putting things in the trash that that you need in order to be who you are. Stop trash talking yourself. That's another thing. We're conditioned to talk crazy. The English language is designed to make us talk stupid. And so we talk stupid. And therefore we're going to talk stupid to people. So therefore we don't know how to, communicate with ourselves, let alone communicate with other people. That's why a lot of people out here wearing masks and pretending like they could be at work one way, and then when they're not at work, they're a completely different person. And I'm not saying there's layers to us and there's a time and place for everything. I'm speaking of the people who are being fake, right? Really going through some real serious issues within themselves, but they just keep going like the Energizer Bunny. I'm here, gotta be here, put on space, I'm happy. But then they're dying inside because what? They're losing their self. They're losing themselves, and they feel like they have to have one over the other. I love, because this is going to happen, to see the day when people are really, you show up to work, or you just show up in life, people be like, how you doing today? Folks be like, oh, I'm good. Thank you for asking. Stop lying. Stop lying. You're not good. You're not okay. You need a hug. You need to go home. Today ain't hitting right. Be okay with that. But we live in a world where we're conditioned to think that we need the matrix, we need society, because of how they have their system in place. So if you fall out of line, that means something else is a domino effect and gets affected, right? And a lot of it's tied to finances, That's what keeps a lot of people in the matrix, because of finances. because you think you need something. Finances and titles. People throw around titles, whether, oh, I'm the father, I'm the mother, you're not the mother, you're not the father, or, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this at my job, or I'm that at my job. It's not about titles. It's about the definition of the title and how you're living up to that in application every day, from spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. How are you showing up for the title? Because sometimes man will say, give us titles, but did you earn the title? Do you even know what the title is? So be mindful of that collective, of just being in a programmed mode to operate off of, they're saying money hungry right now. And money hungry comes in many different shapes or forms. So take it how it applies. But just be careful with not being okay with being authentic, because it will get you in a heap load of trouble. And I know I went through a lot of trouble, because then you start to attract people, places, and things that are really not in alignment with who you truly are. But you're wearing a mask, and that mask operates off of feeding into energy of other people wearing a mask. So I was around a lot of people wearing masks because they didn't even know who they truly are or were. And so we're all operating, pretending to be stuff or we're not. But deep down inside, it's like all of us could kind of see parts of us that are authentic, but nobody really knew how to go about bringing the best out of everyone around us. So we're just living, we're just doing, we're just living and doing. And it's really not healthy. That creates toxic environments, unhealthy relationships, that allows people to stay in things longer than they're supposed to, you know? So I'm going to end it here. If this message resonated with you, if you got something out of it, feel free to like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notification bells. But this is your part 3, episode 3 to the vulnerability messages. And I will catch you guys next time. Namaste.